What's up, guys? Jesse here with Matt Naps, and today we're going to be talking about pretty much anything that happened at UFC 160 or 262. Sorry, yeah, 162 was about 10 years ago now, 15 years ago. So yeah, we're going to be talking about what happened at UFC 262, and specifically, really, we only want to talk about the main event and the co-main event. So co-main was obviously Beneil Dariush versus Tony Ferguson. And I thought this fight was interesting for a number of reasons. The first being that going into this fight, everyone was acting like the last thing Beneil wanted to do was hit the ground with Tony, and that like it would be terrible if he hit the ground with Tony. And I thought this was kind of weird because one of these guys is a three-time world jiu-jitsu champion, and that's not Tony. I think a lot of people bought into Eddie Bravo's hype about how good Tony's jiu-jitsu is, and don't get me wrong, Tony's jiu-jitsu is really good, but Tony's never won a world jiu-jitsu championship. Beneil has, so there's a difference to that, like that jiu-jitsu. Now Tony does have really good jiu-jitsu, but he's never been that world class at it, like at least in pure jiu-jitsu. And yeah, we saw this like when he fought Oliveira, who's got the submission record in the UFC, beat Royce Gracie's record for the most submissions ever. But it's Beneil Dariush, who's a world jiu-jitsu champion. So yeah, I think people tend to overrate his grappling. He's more of a well-rounded fighter than anything. He comes from a wrestling background to some extent. I think he was a not an NCAA wrestler, but a national college. What is it? I can't remember what the exact division he was in is. Let me check this quick. NCWA, which is National Collegiate Wrestling Association. So I'm guessing that, I'm not too familiar with this level of wrestling. Okay, so these are schools that are not in the end. Teams in transition to a higher division not eligible for the NCAA postseason compete in the NCAA. Okay, so this is like private schools and stuff from the looks of it. Okay, that's interesting. But yeah, so he does come from a college wrestling background. And he is a good black belt under 10th Planet, which is a really good jiu-jitsu school, especially for MMA. They specify like their jiu-jitsu is based around jiu-jitsu for MMA and combat jiu-jitsu. But yeah, as soon as Beneil had that game plan that he was just going to take him down, I knew it was going to be one-sided because there's no way Tony was going to be able to handle that guy on the ground specifically. Like Beneil is a three-time world jiu-jitsu champion. I think people really underrate him. Probably because he's so soft-spoken, but I think the fact that he got that one over Tony is really good. And when it comes to Tony himself, I think a lot of people are acting like he's got 3 losses in a row, and that means he's done. But if you look at the 3 guys he's lost to, it's Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, and Beneil Dariush. Oliveira is the current champion. Gaethje is the former interim champion, and still I think ranked as like the number 2 guy in the division, number 3, I guess, kind of, because they always have like the champion and then the number 1, so a number 2 contender, I guess you could say. So he's only lost to the best guy, the 3rd best guy, and then Beneil Dariush, who was ranked 9, but will now probably jump up to like number 3 or 4. I don't think he's done. I think he can come back and readjust his game plan and be able to still win some fights and still compete at the highest level. I think he even said in that fight that he went and worked with Freddie Roach, and he's working a lot on his striking in the lead up to the fight, which is probably a bad idea. It was a good idea in one sense in that you definitely want to stand with Beneil, but it was a bad idea in the sense that he doesn't seem to have been working on his wrestling defense too much, or what he was going to do when Beneil got him down there. So. And then again with the Oliveira fight, he showed great heart, right? Like, didn't let him submit him, popped his fucking knee with that, what was it, toe hold or whatever he got on him. Like, he had his leg bad, and didn't. So, Tony is 3-0, but I expect he'll be back. I know he is getting older. I think he's 37. But I think he can still win against some top level guys. Will he ever be champion? I don't know. I don't know if he'll ever be champion again. It's kind of annoying because Connor really, like, if you think about it, Connor never should have been champion. They kind of fucked over Tony Ferguson and Habib. Um, One of them should have been champion for a long time. Like, Habib won the interim title. Tony Ferguson, sorry, won the interim title. Under a year later, he fought again. Normally, they don't strip guys unless they've been gone for like much longer than a year. They let Connor hold that belt for 2 years. Even I kind of understand why they gave him the title shot, because he did move up, and like, it's champion versus champion, always going to sell, and it's Connor, always going to sell. But realistically, he didn't deserve the title shot. And then to put the division on hiatus for essentially 2 years, then you let Tony get the belt, and then you strip both him and McGregor instead of just McGregor. What they should have done is they should have stripped McGregor, promoted Tony to interim or to undisputed champion, and then had another interim belt for Nurmagomedov until Tony came back. But unfortunately, they didn't do that. So one, we never got to see Tony versus Habib, who are probably the two best lightweights of. They're not even really the same generation, because Habib's like 30 and fucking Tony's like 37. So they're kind of a generation or two generations apart as far as MMA generations go, because they're usually only. I guess it depends on how you quantify a generation in MMA. Because like, what is a generation in MMA, right? Like, GSP started in like the early 2000s and just retired in 2017. So like, he was there. Yeah, I guess it really depends on like what you consider a generation in MMA, but like, they're definitely two of the best guys that were at their peak at similar times, and we never got to see them fight, which is kind of annoying. But like, Tony did get to fight some good guys. Probably his best win was Anthony Pettis. He got the corner stoppage on Pettis in the second round. At the end of the second round, doctor stoppage. Yeah, he had a lot of impressive wins. RDA was another really good win. And yeah, just like that, what was it, a 13-fight win streak he went on there? Yeah, after losing to Michael Johnson. Just an absolute animal. So yeah, I hope to see him back. I hope that he's able to get back to, get another win over a top 5 guy. I imagine this will knock him out of the top 5, but I don't think it should knock him down too much. Yeah, all in all. And then, yeah, I expect the winner of McGregor and Poirier will probably get the next title shot, so maybe he can face the loser of that. I think either one of those would be a big fight. I don't think he's fought either guy. So, a former interim champion versus former champion or whatever. But then again, if McGregor loses that Poirier fight, he should probably move back down to 45, because he's still undefeated there. He could go on another title run there, whereas it'll be harder, especially if Poirier ends up beating Oliveira. If Poirier beats Oliveira and McGregor, then McGregor won't even be able to get a title shot because he'll be down 2-1. But yeah, so anyway, moving on to Oliveira. Oliveira, obviously an amazing win. Tied the UFC record, broke the UFC record for most finishes. Has the UFC record for most submissions. Just, animal. Been in the UFC for a long time, and he's still pretty young. I think he's only 31. Yeah, 31. So, been in the UFC since 2010. So he's been in the UFC since he was 20 years old. Had like some hit and miss at the start of his career, went on a good streak, lost to some good guys, then went on a really good streak again. But I think Oliveira with this win, knocking out Michael Chandler. He just beat Ferguson before this. He's got, he's just been around the top. Just in his last 5 fights, Nick Lentz, Jared Gordon, Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler. Before that, he beat Jim Miller, Clay Guida. Just been on an absolute tear, beating a lot of the best guys of the last generation, like Clay Guida and Jim Miller. And then, a lot of the guys from this generation, Nick Lentz, Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson, and now Michael Chandler, who's probably one of the best guys to never win a UFC belt. Chandler is. So, just absolutely impressive wins. He also has a win over Will Brooks, former Bellator champion. Unfortunately, Pettis is gone, because that would be a really interesting fight to see. Would be Anthony Pettis versus Charles Oliveira 2, because Pettis actually does have a win over him. But yeah, Pettis actually left on a 2-fight winning streak too, which is kind of, I bet you he's regretting that, because, had he stayed, he probably would have got a title shot. But then he left and he lost in PFL to Clay Collard. So yeah, the Pettis win is probably one he'll want to get back. Max Holloway also has a win over him. I think that was both back when they were still both 45-pounders. So that could be another good fight. I think, Holloway's obviously lost to Volkanovski twice, so he probably won't get another title shot down there. But he just beat Calvin Kattar, so, he is on his winning ways again. Yeah, if he moves up, I could see that, back up to 55. I could see that being a good title fight for him. He has also lost to Frankie Edgar. I think Frankie lost to Sandhagen, and then, yeah, he hasn't nothing since then. So Frankie's probably still fighting. I don't know if Frankie will move back up to 155 though, because he's been fighting at bantamweight lately. But he is a former 55 champion, so if he did move up, Cerrone, unfortunately, he'll probably never get that one back, because Cerrone's his next fight's probably going to be a title fight, or not a title fight, a retirement fight. And I doubt, he's on a 5 or 6 fight losing streak, so I doubt they'll give him a top guy, let alone title shot. Jim Miller, he's already avenged. Cub Swanson, unfortunately, he probably won't get back. I think Cub, I don't know if Cub retired or no, he fucked Giga, yeah. Beat Crone, beat Daniel Pineda, and then lost to Giga. And yeah, he's still fighting at 45, so I don't know. He hasn't fought at 55 since 2006, so I doubt Cub will go up to 55. Yeah, so honestly, Oliveira's got a really, really good record. He's 31-8, but if you look at the guys he's lost to, he's avenged the loss to Jim Miller. He lost to Donald Cerrone when he was really young, and Cerrone was peak Cerrone. Lost to Cub Swanson, similar thing. He was really young, and Cub was at his peak. Frankie Edgar, one of the greatest lightweights of all time, in my opinion. Top 5 lightweight. I'd probably put him at number 4, probably. I think I put him at number 4 behind BJ and Habib and Benson Henderson. So not a big deal there. Max Holloway, he lost to. Pettis. So all these guys he's lost to, most of them are former champions. Most of his losses are to former champions, and it was when they were near their prime and he was still a young kid. So the fact that he's got that 8 losses, I know some people hold it against him, but yeah, impressive career. Hopefully Pettis can get a win so that the UFC re-signs him and then they can get a title shot. That'd be an amazing fight to watch. Pettis, even though he's not, I don't even think he's worse than he used to be. I think the game just caught up to him. He was ahead of it with all his taekwondo and stuff, but then everyone just kind of added that to their arsenal, and that became a new standard. And now he's just, even though he was the originator and the first guy to do a lot of that stuff, it's now just so standardized that he doesn't have that big gap that he used to have on guys. But I still would really like to see the rematch of the Pettis fight, the rematch of the Aldo fight. Frankie would be great. Cub I don't think we'll ever see. Donald I don't think we'll ever see. Jim Miller, he's already avenged. Felder's a good one too. Felder's obviously, he's lost his 2 recent fights to Dos Anjos and Dan Hooker by split decision. Yeah, he signed a multi-fight contract, so he might get that Felder win back. Felder's only lost to top guys. And then, yeah, in terms of other fights I'd like to see him, RDA I think would be a great fight. I don't know what RDA... let me check. What's RDA on right now? He is... 7... Yeah, so he is 7th in the division, and currently... Yeah, he just beat Felder, so yeah, that's a good fight. Next, they'll obviously give him Poirier versus McGregor winner next, which is another good fight. Oliveira versus Gaethje is an amazing fight. 55 is just so stacked right now. I really would like to see them re-sign Pettis, though. Although, that loss outside of the fucking UFC kind of hurts that. I'd like to see them re-sign Benson Henderson, too, but I think Benson lost his most recent fight. Let me check. Yeah, Benson's lost his two most recent fights. One to Chandler, and then one to a guy named Jason Jackson, who, judging by the fact that he doesn't have a Wikipedia page, his nickname is the Ass Kicking Machine. Oh, he's 14-4, 170-pounder. He might be in the UFC soon. Yeah, damn. One of his losses is to Colby Covington. So, like, yeah, this dude's... Yeah, that's not bad. Interesting. So, but yeah, and that was at welterweight. But yeah, I would like to see them fucking re-sign Benson Henderson too if he can piece. Benson should have gone for a UFC contract when he was on the 4-fight winning streak in Bellator. But then, I think him and Dana have beef, unfortunately. So, which I kind of get. I mean, in my opinion, when he was at his peak, he was the greatest lightweight of all time until Khabib took that from him. And they never really marketed him as that. They didn't really try to get behind Benson as much as I think they should have. I think part of that is Dana's a huge Frankie fan, and Benson had two really close, a unanimous decision and then a really close split decision. Both fights being really close. Win over Frankie Edgar is one of Dana's favorite fighters, so I think he's kind of pissed that Benson beat one of his favorite guys. But yeah, I personally I would love to see Benson back and get some of those fights that Benson against Charles Oliveira. But unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever see that one. Yeah, as for... Well, I mean, yeah, I guess it's pretty obvious. I think Gaethje versus... or not Gaethje, sorry, Poirier versus Ferguson is definitely the next one that's going to win. Or going to get a title shot. How do I think they'll do against it? I think Poirier has a better chance of winning than McGregor does. McGregor, it's difficult because if Oliveira is smart, he'll take McGregor down. McGregor can crack him, and end it. And that's how I see it going. Is honestly, I think McGregor is probably a better matchup. Yeah, it's so difficult. That is a good question. Because I think Poirier is so much more well-rounded. So in that sense, he's a harder matchup for Charles. But the one McGregor's just that left hand just cracks so hard, and he is so good on the feet that I don't know if Oliveira can take his power. It'll be interesting though. Yeah, but I think Oliveira's earned his spot as he's proven himself to be the champ for now. Obviously, some people, they kind of view Dustin Poirier as the uncrowned king. But, Oliveira did beat Chandler. He was, it was two top guys going against each other. And now we'll have, Oliveira versus the winner of Poirier versus McGregor. And then Gaethje will get to fight somebody. And then we can, really figure out who is, now that Khabib is gone and retired, who is the heir to the throne, the true heir to the throne. But yeah, I think, this is a great fight for Oliveira, winning this fight, I think, in my opinion, slides him into that top 10 of all time. There's only ever been 11 guys to hold the belt, 14 if you include the interim champions. I do, but I know a lot of people don't. And yeah, I'd rank him above a lot of those other guys. I'd put him above Alvarez. I'd put him above McGregor, Ferguson, Poirier, Gaethje. I'd probably rank RDA and Pettis above him right now because they both defended the belt. Sean Sherrick also defended the belt. And then obviously, Khabib, Benson, BJ Penn, Frankie Edgar, Jens Pulver. Those are the guys that had good long streaks at lightweight. So, they're kind of the greatest of all times. In terms of that division, personally I rank Khabib is my number one, Benson's my number two. Then I go BJ, Frankie, and then Pulver. But yeah, I think if Oliveira, whoever wins the Poirier versus McGregor, if Oliveira is able to come and win that back, I think that'll knock him up into just shy of the top 5. Really, whoever wins the kind of upcoming tournament, I guess you could call it. We had this fight as the first fight of the tournament. Then we're gonna have Poirier versus McGregor as the second fight for this part of the tournament. And then when those two When that fight happens, and then the winner's fight, so Oliveira versus the winner of Poirier versus McGregor 3, that will basically, in a way, be for who is like the number 6 guy of all time, right? Like who's the guy that's going to get that second title win on their record and, move themselves up in the rankings historically. So, it'll be interesting over the next couple months. And then whoever does that, if they can do it again, if they can get another win after that, then they put themselves into that, kind of category with like Edgar and what's his name? Pulver, who were able to defend it twice. I guess Edgar kind of defended it 3 times. It depends on whether you consider it a draw defense or not. It's a defense, but it's not a title win. So it's, yeah. They have this. So yeah, I guess you could say Frankie Edgar has less title wins than Benson, BJ, and Khabib, but the same amount of defenses. Just because a draw is a defense, just not a win. So, but yeah. Anyway, I think the lightweight division's in a really good position right now. Brazil's probably happy they got another champion. They're used to having half the champions be theirs, and for the last little bit, it's mostly been Americans and some Russians, an Irishman, But Brazil's starting to get back on top. They got Divison Figueiredo down at 125 pounds. They've got Amanda holding down the women's side. She controls basically half the divisions, literally half the divisions at this point, 135, 145 pounds. And now they got Oliveira, getting that lightweight belt, and they now control the most stacked division in the UFC. Historically, 155, 170, the most stacked, most, I guess you could call them prestigious divisions in a way, at least recently. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. Brazil can be hyped. And, it would be really interesting to see if Khabib came back. I doubt Khabib will ever come back. He looks really porky lately. Looks like he's enjoying retirement. Promised his mother he was going to retire. He's 32 years old, too, so like the fact that he's taking time off in what most people consider the prime for a combat athlete's career is usually around, most people consider it like 30 to 34. So like 32 is right in the dead center there, where you're like physically you're still near your peak, if not at your peak, and mentally you've learned enough that you're not as dumb as you were when you were 20, 25 years old. So the fact that he's taking time off during what should be his peak and should be his best performance time, I think it means that he actually is planning on permanently retiring. But we'll see. I think Khabib, as of right now, I think is still the GOAT at lightweight. He has a win over Dos Anjos, a win over McGregor, a win over Poirier, a win over Gaethje. So he beat 4 former champions in those guys. Wins over other top contenders too, like Gleison Tibau, Abel Trujillo, Pat Healy, Michael Johnson, Edson Barbosa, Al Iaquinta. Just an absolute tear. So I think right now Khabib is still the GOAT. But time moves on, and if he doesn't come back, time will move on. And because lightweight's been such a stacked division for so long, no one's been able to hold that belt really that long. So maybe Oliveira will be the guy to beat Khabib's 4 title defenses. Khabib's the greatest of all time right now. Has been, I would argue, undisputably since 2020. October of last year when he beat Gaethje and tied Benson and BJ's record. But time moves on. Benson was once the best. BJ was once the best. Jens Pulver was once the best. If you look at light heavyweight, John Jones, who's now considered the greatest ever there. Tito Ortiz was once considered the best ever. Frank Shamrock was once considered the best ever. You middleweight, I'd say still Anderson, but before that, you had Rich Franklin, you had Murilo Bustamante, you had Dave Manet. Welterweight right now is George St. Pierre. Usman's making a run for it. I don't know. That's a much harder record to catch up to. St. Pierre's 12 title wins at 170. But time moves on. If Kamaru Usman can catch up to that, but I'm sure nobody thought that St. Pierre was ever going to catch Matt Hughes' record, and then he did. And then I'm sure nobody thought that Matt Hughes was going to catch Milicich's record, but he did. So. And then, like, the perfect example of this is McGregor. Like, McGregor's kind of fucked around a lot with his career. in terms of money, he's probably one of the greatest fighters of all time when it comes to just, I don't know if you should, greatest entertainers, I guess you should say, of all time, because of all the amount of money he's just been able to bring to himself into the sport. But when you look at how he handled his career, as far as like legacy goes for being considered one of the greatest to ever do it, I don't think he's really done a good job of that, because like if you look at it, he's won 2 title fights at 145 and 1 title fight at 155, right? He's other people that he's beat have surpassed him. Like Aldo, like he beat Aldo. Aldo was already kind of, considered the GOAT at the time, but then Aldo came back and won the belt again, right? Because Conor just kind of left it. And then Holloway, who he also beat, came and won the interim belt, and then won the belt and then defended it 3 times, which Conor was never able to do. And then Volkanovski, who he's never fought, came and defended it, which Conor was never able to do. And then same thing at 55. Like, Conor went and fucked around, and then Khabib came, and yeah. So I think when it comes to legacy, you can't quit early. Or it's kind of that difficult situation. You don't want to quit too early. You don't want to quit too late. But I don't know. Be interesting to see. Like, comment, subscribe, and see you in the next video.